warm June night in northern Minnesota. A card game had just ended. The sky was clear, there was no moon, only stars. And somewhere near a Roseau County farm, a man stepped out to get some fresh air. And what happened next would stay with him for decades, because before he saw it, the air felt still. The crickets stopped. He heard nothing but silence. And then he would later say he felt no fear at all, only wonder. But what he saw defied logic. It was an object that hovered silently below treetop level, moved in ways that seemed impossible, and then vanished faster than the eye can follow. This is another episode of Northland MUFON's Spotlight Case. June 1979, Roseau County, Minnesota. Late evening, around 11 p.m. The witness had just been inside his father's farmhouse enjoying a game of cards. Nothing unusual, just a typical summer night in rural Minnesota. After losing again, he stepped outside toward the eastern edge of the farmyard to get some fresh air. The breeze was light, the night was moonless, the stars were bright overhead, and fields stretched into darkness. And then something caught his eye. Not high in the sky, but low, very low, near a ditch in a neighboring field. At first, he thought it might be an aircraft, maybe an airplane, maybe a helicopter. But something immediately felt wrong, because there was no sound, no engine, no rotor noise, nothing. And then something even stranger happened. The crickets went silent. Think about that for a moment. How many people remember the exact details of an ordinary night decades later? Usually they don't, unless something happened that etched it into their memory forever. The witness watched as the object slowly moved toward him. Not fast, not aggressively, just steadily. He estimated it remained lower than the treetops. It was small and nearly silent. He began studying the lights. They pulsed in a circular pattern, one after another moving around the object. He later believed the object itself may have been spherical, not because he saw its shape clearly, but because of the way those lights were wrapped around it. And then came another detail that stood out, the movement. The object shifted left, and then right, and then back and forth. But it didn't appear to bob up and down. It just remained at a steady height. No descent, no ascent, no visible correction, no wobble, no vertical movement at all. Just controlled motion. Almost effortless. Cases involving low-altitude nighttime observations often become difficult to evaluate. Distance estimates can be challenging, depth perception changes at night, and stars, planets, and aircraft can sometimes create unusual impressions. But several details here continue to stand out. The object reportedly remained below treetop height. It maneuvered laterally without visible altitude change. There was no sound, and perhaps most unusual, the witness consistently described his emotional reaction not as panic, but wonder. That detail appears repeatedly in reports across decades of sightings. Not terror, not confusion. Just an overwhelming sense that something extraordinary was happening. If the story ended there, this would already be unusual. But instead, this is where everything changed. For a time, the object simply hovered. It was still, quiet, almost as if it were observing. But then, without warning, it shot upward. Not gradually, not accelerating the way an aircraft normally would. It was instant. The witness said it moved so fast he could barely turn his head. Then it streaked westward across the sky. A flash, a blur, and then gone. Disappearing over the horizon almost before he could process what he had seen. Moments earlier, it had drifted silently below the trees, yet now, it was gone. The witness was stunned, but gathered himself and immediately went back in and told his father. His father stepped outside and listened as he explained what had happened. Years later, the witness would learn that numerous reports had surfaced in Roseau County during the summers around that same time period. Unfortunately, his case was never formally investigated, and for years, it simply remained a memory. Until decades later, after meeting a counselor familiar with unusual encounter reports, he finally decided to document what happened. And maybe that's one of the most interesting parts of cases like this. Not everyone reports their experiences immediately. Some wait years, some wait decades. Not because they forgot, but because they never could. On a summer night in 1979, a man stepped outside after congregating to get fresh air. He expected silence, fields, stars. Instead, he witnessed an object moving in ways he couldn't explain, and before it appeared, the cricket stopped and silence took over. Coincidence? Environmental effect? A forgotten detail of an extraordinary night? Or something else entirely? Real sightings? Real witnesses? From the files of MUFON? This has been another episode of Northland MUFON's Spotlight Case.
If you've seen anything strange in the sky, please comment below. And go to northlandmufon.com to learn more. And until next time, keep those eyes to the sky, because you never know what you're going to see.